There are people who spend almost their entire lives becoming a source of support for others. They are always there whenever someone is struggling, always checking in, always ready to help even when nobody asks. At first, being around someone like this feels incredibly comforting. You feel cared for, listened to, and emotionally safe in a way that is hard to find. But over time, something begins to change. You slowly start feeling emotionally drained without fully understanding why. Because sometimes, their kindness is not entirely coming from a genuine ease in giving, but from a deep need to feel valuable through other people. Many kind people secretly carry a fear of being forgotten, a fear of not being important enough unless they are constantly useful to someone. So they try to become indispensable. They help endlessly, care endlessly, sacrifice endlessly, as if their worth depends on how much they are needed. And without realizing it, this creates a quiet emotional pressure. You begin to feel guilty for disappointing them. If you reply a little late, want some time alone, or simply do not have the emotional energy to respond warmly, you start feeling bad about yourself. Not because they directly force you to do anything, but because their constant devotion creates an invisible sense of emotional debt. The sad part is that people like this often do not realize they are exhausting others. In their minds, they are simply loving with all their heart. But the healthiest relationships never make someone feel like they have to emotionally overextend themselves just to repay another person's kindness. Genuine care gives people a sense of freedom, not the feeling that they must constantly compensate for the love they receive. There are people who seem incredibly gentle, soft-spoken, calm, and rarely openly angry. They almost never criticize others harshly or start conflicts. But the longer you stay around them, the more you begin to feel like you have to be careful all the time. Careful with your words, careful with your tone, even careful with your silence. Because deep down, you know they are easily hurt, even if they never say it directly. For example, when you decline an invitation, they may simply smile softly and say, "It's okay." But afterward, they become quieter than usual. When you forget to reply to a message, they do not complain or accuse you of anything. They just respond with short, distant replies that quietly make you feel guilty on your own. The unsettling part is that they are not intentionally trying to hurt you, but they are also not truly honest about their emotions. They hide disappointment behind silence. They hide pain behind kindness. And eventually, the people around them are forced to constantly guess how they feel. Over time, the relationship stops feeling emotionally relaxing. You find yourself always checking whether they are sad today, whether something is bothering them, whether they are silently disappointed again. Sometimes what exhausts people is not explosive arguments or obvious toxicity. It is the constant pressure of carrying another person's unspoken emotions in silence. And some people appear very gentle on the outside, yet still make the people around them feel like they can never fully let their guard down. Many people spend too much of their lives trying to become the easy person that everyone likes. They always say, "I'm fine." They always say, "Anything is okay with me." They constantly try to keep the peace and avoid making anyone uncomfortable. They rarely say no, rarely express frustration, and they do everything they can to avoid disappointing others. At first, people often see someone like this as mature, selfless, and emotionally considerate. But what many fail to realize is that emotions suppressed for too long do not simply disappear. They quietly build up over time. Some people may appear calm and gentle on the outside, while carrying years of unspoken pressure and emotional pain inside. They smile when they are unhappy. They agree when they actually want to refuse. They stay silent while secretly hurting deeply, and eventually, all those buried emotions begin to weigh them down. The people around them slowly start to feel it, too. You can sense that they are always trying to be kind, but never truly relaxed. Their care starts feeling forced. Conversations begin to carry an invisible heaviness, because deep down, they have spent too long living against their real emotions. The sad part is that many people mistake this for love. But a healthy relationship is not a place where one person must constantly suppress themselves just to maintain harmony. Some forms of kindness may look beautiful from the outside. while underneath they are built from emotional exhaustion, silent resentment, and years of self-denial. Some people love others through constant sacrifice. They are always the one giving more, tolerating more, trying harder, and putting themselves last. They stay up late to listen to your problems, give up their own time to help you, and prioritize your emotions over their own again and again. On the surface, it feels deeply touching. It looks like unconditional love. But over time, that kind of love can slowly become emotionally suffocating, because eventually you stop feeling free inside the relationship. You no longer feel like you can easily say no. You cannot simply become distant when you are emotionally exhausted. You cannot take space without guilt creeping into your mind. There is always a heavy thought lingering underneath. After everything they've done for me. And this is how many relationships quietly keep people attached through emotional debt rather than genuine comfort and connection. The unsettling part is that many people who act this way are not consciously trying to manipulate anyone. They simply believe that if they are loving enough, selfless enough, and sacrificial enough, the people they care about will never leave them. So they keep giving more and more, without realizing that their sacrifices are also creating emotional pressure for the person beside them. Some even become silently hurt when their sacrifices are not appreciated or returned in the way they secretly hoped for. And slowly, disappointment begins to grow, even though they once claimed they were giving without expecting anything back. Most people think control only looks like restriction, anger, or domination. But sometimes, the most subtle form of control comes from making someone feel too guilty to walk away. What exhausts many people in a relationship is not always dramatic arguments or major emotional wounds. Sometimes, it is the constant feeling that they must become a safe version of themselves just to avoid upsetting the other person. When you are around someone who is overly kind, overly sensitive, or constantly self-sacrificing, you often begin adjusting yourself without even realizing it. You carefully choose your words. You hide negative emotions. You do not allow yourself to seem distant when you are tired. You avoid saying no even when you desperately need personal space. Because deep down you know they will feel hurt, even if they never say it out loud. And over time, you slowly lose the ability to feel natural inside the relationship. You stop expressing your real emotions freely. You no longer feel comfortable showing frustration or emotional exhaustion. There may even be days when you simply want silence, yet still end up feeling guilty for it. The sad part is that many people stay in relationships like this for far too long simply because the other person is not a bad person. They convince themselves that they have no real reason to feel emotionally drained. But the body and emotions rarely lie. Some relationships appear peaceful and loving on the outside, while quietly draining someone's emotional energy on the inside, because healthy love should never make you feel like you must constantly perform emotional balance just to keep the peace. A truly safe relationship is one where you are allowed to be yourself, even on the days when you are exhausted, quiet, imperfect, or emotionally overwhelmed. As people grow older, they slowly realize that not every form of kindness brings peace. Some people are genuinely good, gentle, and deeply caring toward others. Yet after being around them for a long time, you may begin to lose the ability to feel like yourself. You become more careful, more restrained, and constantly carry a quiet sense of guilt that is difficult to explain. The saddest part is that sometimes nobody is truly the villain. One person is simply trying to love in the only way they know how, while the other is silently becoming emotionally exhausted from constantly feeling the need to respond to that kindness with emotional reassurance. And that is why some relationships look perfectly peaceful from the outside, while secretly leaving people feeling lonely and drained on the inside. A healthy relationship needs more than care and devotion. It also needs the freedom to be yourself. You should not have to constantly hold yourself together just to make someone else feel secure. And you should not feel guilty for needing silence, needing space, or wanting to be honest about your real emotions. Because real love is not about making someone feel indebted to your kindness. Real love is making someone feel at peace in your presence. And sometimes, growing up means learning to walk away from relationships that continuously exhaust you, even when the other person was never truly a bad person.